You hear it again and again. 80,000 people living in 4 square miles, making Somerville the most densely populated city in New England. That density puts a huge strain on the city's limited athletic fields and open space. While demand for playing time is increasing, open space remains the same. Reporter Dranusha Jasufi brings us the story.
This is Lincoln Park, and it is the first of 6 fields being reconstructed as a part of the recently released Somerville Fields Master Plan.
When Mayor Tony came into office, I think one of his priorities was parks and open space. I think that I think he's always made a point of making sure there was funding available for schools and funding available for parks and open spaces.
The renovations will address not just playing fields, but sustainability issues for Somerville.
So one of the great things about this project and other projects is that we're able to think about climate change and really use our parks to ameliorate some of the wetter events that we know are coming and to deal with localized flooding as well as larger storm events. So this park holds 1.25 million gallons of water.
Yep.
And we have smaller parks that have smaller holding capacities, and that's really important. And as people who live around here know about flooding, as Arn was mentioning that it's something that people deal with, but it's also something that's going to become a larger problem as the climate changes and stormwater events intensify.
The master plan is a product of 4 years of discussion and public comment. The challenge for this city is balancing user needs with available resources to get the greatest capacity from the city's fields.
Given that Somerville has so little open space, it means that these parks have to serve multiple uses. And so it's not just a matter of being able to have a great playground space. It means that playground has to serve all age groups, and it's recreation, it's play, it's having making the parks more sustainable.
According to the master plan, the usage of athletic fields is high and growing. Somerville resident and youth soccer coach Jim Hanley and his daughter Maya have both been involved in field renovation discussions.
That's the magic of Somerville. We live in this wonderful, diverse, exciting, dynamic community, but we don't have a lot of open spaces. And yet we have a lot. The athletes, the demand for play is growing. Just soccer alone, which is kind of a world sport, which really represents the city generally, has grown by 50% just in the last 5 years. And so if you look at the demographics and the changes in the growth of our city that's projected, we can't keep up with what we have.
Increasing capacity without the option of adding new fields raised the question of grass versus artificial turf. Building natural grass fields requires using best practices for drainage, irrigation, soil, and seed, and at least a year of rest to establish a root base after construction. Grass fields also require constant maintenance and reduced playtime. Artificial turf is more durable, allowing for more playing time, and can go into use right after construction.
Most people believe that compromise is the right way to get things done in Somerville, and that we ought to be having choice. And with a blend of turf fields and grass fields, frankly, the grass would be able to grow if you had a few turf fields.
Well, I like the turf fields because if it's raining or if it's hot or it's cold, you can still play because it doesn't get muddy, and the heat sometimes it gets to you, but you can just drink water and take extra breaks. But otherwise, it's a soft landing. Like if I were to land on this, it would hurt a lot more than if I landed on the turf fields.
Maya is standing on Foss Field at the intersection of Broadway and McGrath O'Brien Highway in Winter Hill. This field is not a part of the master plan because it is owned by the Department of Conservation and Recreation, or the DCR.
So I think about between 30 and 40% of the open space in the city is actually owned by the city. Over 50% is owned by the state. And we as a city, especially within the city parks department, don't have control of the state parks.
But Somerville has some management agreements in place for DCR-controlled parcels.
Fortunately, the mayor's office has been able to work with the state over several years and has been able to get a management agreement in place for the Dilboy Stadium and Dilboy Auxiliary Fields. So that means that our recreation department is able to program those spaces.
Renovations of state-owned parcels is complicated. It means working with the state budget constraints and bureaucracy.
How could those parks be renovated? How could Foss Park be renovated? How could Draw 7 Park be renovated? There's huge potential within both of those spaces. And we'd love to be able to work with the state to see that happen. At this point, we don't have that ability. The mayor's office is in an ongoing conversation with officials at the state.
Renovating fields does not happen quickly. Constructing drainage and sustainable irrigation means major disruption, but the results will last for years.
The construction process requires a lot of patience, but it also, in terms of field usage, means that there are displaced uses that need to be accommodated for on fields that we don't really have the capacity to accommodate on. So it just adds more pressure in the short term while the construction is happening.
For Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Janusha Yusufi.
You can read the full plan on the Parks Department page on the city's website.